Podcast. Real conversations with the people behind Bristol's businesses.
Welcome to the Bristol Business Podcast, where we're going to be speaking to the people behind the business, shaping our great city. I'm your host, Lee, and today's episode's really interesting. So it's all about legacy, evolution, and family. So we're joined by the leader of the city's most established exterior cleaning service companies, CIS. We're going to talk about how the business got started, what's changed over nearly 5 decades, and how we're keeping safety, quality and tradition at the heart of everything we do. So let's dive in. So do you want a bit of an introduction?
Yep, so I'm Tom Alger. I'm the Managing Director of CIS Exterior Cleaning. As you say, quite right, we're Bristol's longest established family exterior cleaning company, and we are just approaching our 50th year.
50 years, that's crazy. So it's been around since 1976. I was born in 1979, so yeah, and most of the days I struggle to get out of bed without hurting my shoulder stuff. So 50 years, that's crazy. Can you just tell us a little bit about the origins of the business and how it all got started?
Yep, so I'm third generation, so started by my grandparents a long time ago, as you say. They started off the cleaning business. That developed throughout the centre of Bristol, because we were based in Colston Street originally, moved to several different premises as it grew. And I joined the business when my dad was involved. He's long since retired, although we still drag him in because he still wants to be involved and come in and see what the company's doing. I've been in it 30 years, and we've now got my 17-year-old son, who's the fourth generation. He's been with us 6 months, so he has the joys of getting out of bed at 5:30 in the morning to come into work as a teenager. Goes down really well.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I remember those days.
Yes, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I'm used to it now, but I can remember the days of being 16, having to go to work on a Sunday and carpet cleaning in Wessex Water it was back then, and yeah, getting out of bed at that time in the morning is not much fun as you're a teenager, but...
To be fair, it's not much fun at any age, is it?
No, that's true.
Even less as a teenager.
No, but you know what? My dad always said to me, and he's quite right, you're either getting out of bed at 5:30 or 7:30. You don't want to be out of bed at any time, do you?
No.
When your alarm goes off, I don't want to get up. So if you can get yourself out of bed early and get on with it, that's great.
That's it. It's definitely hard graft. So just want to talk about like the kind of legacy element of it, because I've had to start before, didn't quite work out. It was easy for me to walk away and get a salary job and for it to be someone else's problem. But is there kind of a burden on that? Not a burden, but a good burden. The fact that this isn't just a business, it's your family. It must be your DNA. It must be like you cut you open and you bleed it.
Yeah, without a doubt. So when I wanted to join the business, so Dad used to go to work. Mum was a nurse, 50 years nursing. So she'd be out on night shifts. Dad would go to work 6 in the morning. He wouldn't come home till 9:30 at night. So long hours, and we were office cleaning back then. So literally going into customers' offices, checking that the toilets were clean, the sinks were clean, the bins were emptied. And I finished school, and it's what I wanted to do at 16. I wanted to go and join them because I worked when I was 14 and 15 on the vans with them. And I was sort of told by Dad at the time, off to university or college, try and get something better. If you want to come back and join the cleaning industry, you can do, but see what you want to do first. So I went off to Southampton. I did a water-based leisure course, which basically involved surfing and sailing for 2 years. Didn't really do much. Came back and joined up. And yeah, as you say, it's within your DNA, and there is that burden as a business owner, without any doubt. Most of the time, I would say it's brilliant because I love the job I do. Yeah. I mean, we've come in today with the team being out on the road cleaning render, and I love the results we get. I love the teamwork that we do, and I love the fact that people know who we are, and we've got a great business. But comes with that is you don't really ever switch off. So when I go home at the end of the day, there's always thoughts about what we can do better, what have we got on tomorrow. Are our staff okay? That's probably the biggest worry I have, is check that our staff are in the right place to be able to do well, but also that their lives are being affected in a positive way, working with us. Because if they're not, then we're not doing our job as a business. And then Mosson, who's joined us now, has already mentioned several times, he finds it hard to switch off. So he's already bought into the fact he's in a family business.
Yeah.
So we need to just be very careful going forward that we make sure that that burden's not too big on him as you grow. So when it was my father running it, I think he had more of a burden. Life has definitely changed. There's more of a life balance now, definitely. Yeah. Whereas it's not all work every single hour of the day. Those were the old days where people used to say, work 12, 14, 16 hours a day, otherwise you're not doing your job properly. Nowadays, you have to have that life balance, definitely.
Yeah, and I think the work-life balance is something that I talk about a lot. We'll get back onto business in a minute, but it's a new kind of pressure, the work-life balance, for our generation, not kind of our generation, but this work generation, because before, if you wanted to work at home, you had to bring files home, you had to bring cabinets, a typewriter maybe. Nowadays, we carry these things in our pocket, so yeah, we have to choose when not to work, and that's quite hard when it's a family business and when it is so much in.
Yeah, and that phone and those emails go off non-stop, don't they? And you have to have, and I've found it really hard, but I've tried to make that decision over the last 18 months really, that comes a time at the end of the day where you just have to ignore what emails you get through until the following morning, because at the end of the day, and I've had this pointed out to me so many times, what is so important that you have to answer at 8 o'clock at night that can't be answered at 6 in the morning, because that client's not going to be reading your emails. So, as you say, it's hard nowadays because you haven't got to bring everything home. It's all on that little phone in your pocket. And, I've got a watch on here. I don't have an Apple Watch deliberately because I don't want to see emails coming through. I have just one that measures me, the steps I do, and just tells me what the time is. So you have to make that conscious decision, I think, to move away from being tied to your business 24 hours a day, because otherwise it's really not going to do much good.
Yeah, because you need to remember that it's a family business, and the reason it's a family business is because of the family. So at the end of the day, if you're kind of always working and you're not spending time with your family, then it's you almost like defeating the purpose of it.
You hit the nail on the head, yeah. And again, that's been said before, is that what's the point in going out and earning money if you can't then enjoy it with your children or your wife? You know, you leave your wife at home and she's looking after children, running around non-stop in our case. And the children obviously look forward to seeing me when I come through the door, and I can't wait to go home and see them. But then if you then come home and your focus is on half on them and half on the business, that's not fair to anyone. So, and it's not the way life should be. So
yeah, you just need to be present in the moment.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly it. You do.
Yeah, we've talked about changes there. So 50 years must have seen massive amounts of changes, not only in the way the business is run, but also the way cleaning and the cleaning sector and cleaning businesses are kind of going in general.
Yeah. So, I mean, massive changes. The most obvious ones are, we used to advertise full page in Yellow Pages. I don't know if you remember the old Yellow Book.
Yeah.
We used to have to go through that for miles to find cleaning companies. Obviously, that's all online now, so that doesn't exist anymore. We had days. I can remember my grandfather. He used to work with another company in Bristol that's still around now, so they go back 4 generations as well, and they were window cleaners. I can remember days of them climbing wooden ladders to go up 4 stories in a building and walk on a window ledge to clean a window. You wouldn't even do that on the ground floor now without being shot by health and safety. So that's changed massively. The working and the safety side of things is a really, really big improvement. And then, just like you say, generally, work as a whole is the industry's changed completely, but the whole culture of not being owned by a business, the fact you own a business and we work to have a life, not the other way around, that you're not tied to work and work controls you, is certainly come in the last, 5 to 10 years, and it still needs a lot more effort from a lot of people, I think, to make sure that is the case. But yes, never changing industry, never changing equipment, techniques, and with the introduction of drones and AI, the next stage and the next transitions will be due, which hopefully Moston will take on in the next few years. And I can sort of hide away from that bit because the drones and the AI is something that's going to be quite amazing, really.
I was going to say the drones are going to be, I kind of like the idea of seeing that. But Yeah, even in my own house, I've got a Hoover that does its own thing,
Yeah.
goes around. I've got my eye on one of those lawnmowers that does the same
Oh,
thing
really?
because I hate doing the lawn.
Yeah.
But so I mean, that's kind of what we use as like consumers. The cleaning kind of like our own houses has
Yeah.
changed so much. So I can't even imagine how much the kind of
No, and
professional
you're quite
cleaning
right. We've
has.
got one of those robot vacuums. You just turn it on and off it goes. It's brilliant, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant. But yeah, the drones that are coming through, I mean, they at the moment they work from a hose pipe effectively and fly it with a hose pipe. And I guess if you're looking at sort of 20-story buildings in London where they use quite a lot, they're probably quite good. But the technology for the industry at the moment isn't there because you've got the too much use of water, which is not environmentally friendly. And then when you come to the use of chemicals, you have to be so vigilant and so careful when you're doing it as we are now. If you add that to a drone, which is then blowing all the chemicals around, you're going to get in a world of trouble. So it's all developing pretty rapidly, and it will be eventually within the industry, I'm sure, to make life easier in the same way that for the cleaning industry, water-fed poles came in for window cleaning. Ladders are effectively removed, and you now clean with pure water through a pole. That has been a huge safety benefit for the industry, but I guess the next step from that will be drones, but we'll wait and see how quickly that comes.
Yeah, because I remember was it Amazon who said they were going to start using drones for delivery. I still haven't had one of them, so yeah, I'm still waiting for Amazon to get on it. So if Amazon haven't perfected it yet, then we'll be all right for a
I
good
think,
few years.
yeah, I think we're worried about something that's not going to be here for a while, but I think, as you say, those big companies, if they're not at the forefront of doing it just yet, it's obviously not quite right, is it?
Yeah, yeah. There's obviously some things that. Um, I mean, there's a trust issue as well with things like that, isn't it? Because one of my company cars I had was Tesla, and I just couldn't use the self drive. I just couldn't.
Oh, really?
I couldn't use it because I just didn't trust it. Because I'm like, while we're going on a straight line, it's all right. But then when you get the kind of like coming around the corner, you're like, no, no,
No,
no.
well, I've not been in one of those yet. I did see the other day on the news about the driverless taxis in London. And I was like, that's a very strange concept, isn't it? Because
Especially in London, could you think of a worse
yeah,
place to do
exactly.
it? A driverless pilot in
Yeah,
London.
I'm a bad enough backseat driver as it is. I don't actually letting no one drive the vehicle.
Yeah, I hate being a backseat driver.
Yeah.
I hate being a passenger.
I'm not sure that'd be for me at the moment.
But yeah, let's so obviously you guys do a lot of residential stuff, a lot of commercial stuff. Is that difficult to maintain both kind of like consumer bases? Because having worked with like co- business to customer and business to business, I know there's a completely different communication style.
There is, yeah. So we've always been commercial based from 50 years ago. We introduced sort of the residential roof cleaning and render cleaning effectively about 6 or 7 years ago. And you're quite right that the big difference is most residential works are one-offs. So when we come and price to go and do your roof, that person's expecting you to produce 100% accuracy, and it's got to be perfect, absolutely brilliant, and they're expecting you to be on time to make sure, and quite rightly so, because they're paying money for a good service. The commercial side of it tends to be more regular work, so for us it might be regular window cleaning, might be regular roof cleaning, might be anything that's regular. So there's not, in a lot of that there may not be so much communication because they know what day of the month you're coming. You know that quite often if it's window cleaning we'll be attending out of hours anyway, so we don't disrupt the business. So there's probably a lot more trust in that. So there is quite a difference between a residential client and a commercial client in terms of what their expectations are.
Cool. And do you have any kind of like software in place to manage like where people are going, because you get the reoccurring schedules, things
Yes.
like that?
Yeah, so for us as a business, we have a CRM that's called Jobber, and that effectively logs anyone who makes an inquiry with us, whether it's phone, through the emails, through the website, all come into that system. That's then dealt with by our lady in the office, Caroline, who's brilliant. She will then make a phone call, arrange an assessment, whether it's commercial or residential. That will then have a site visit from our business director, and all those details are in the CRM. The quotes are then put together through the CRM. They're all sent automatically, and then you have, which is something you didn't used to have, you have then the automatic follow-up process. So if we send you a quote on the Monday, you might have a follow-up email on the Wednesday, another one on the Friday. then you'll have a phone call, and it'll go on for so many rechecks to basically check you up, check you've got the email and how we can help. So it's all automated and also involves a lot of phone calls and a lot of talks from our staff as well. So yep, all done like that. Not like the old days where you take your little notepad along. My old man used to have his little notepad and scribble it all down and then come back and type it all on the typewriter and put it in the post.
Like packet maths, whatever they got.
Exactly. Well, that's it. Do you know, my dad's still like that. He's still like that. He won't, if he comes out and looks at any work with us now, if I say to him, if we happen to be on holiday, for example, and we're stretched, we've got a lot of quotes to do, I might just say, is there any chance you could pop down and look at this job for us? And he said, of course I will, no problem. But he will go down with a little sheet of paper, which is no bigger than, as you say, a fag packet, and he'll scribble all his notes on there still. But it's old school and it still works, so...
definitely, there's no school like the old school,
No,
like they
exactly,
say.
yeah.
So, is there a particular area of the business that you've seen a bigger growth than any others, or is it both across all of the kind of business that you've seen that growth?
I think, in terms of our business ourselves, probably the biggest growth has been the residential side because we never used to do it.
Yeah.
We don't. There are companies out there that will do residential window cleaning, for example, every 4 or 5 weeks. We don't do anything like that. Ours are just one-off jobs. So we tend to concentrate on the bigger jobs, which are roof cleaning, render cleaning, driveways. So that's grown a lot. Introduction into the industry in the last 10 years is soft washing. So that's a chemical treatment of a surface that has algae, moulds and mildews on it. So if you look at a nice new housing estate, cream render looks brilliant. Within a year that's gone red, it's gone green, it's gone black. And you can't pressure wash anything like that because you just put a hole straight through it. So soft washing is a treatment is called soft washing because it's just a soft treatment. And it does an amazing job. It kills everything on the surface, so you have a long-term benefit. But that's probably the single biggest growth in the industry in the last 10 years because that's come on from America. The founder of soft washing is from America and he's introduced the systems around the world. So that on its own is probably the biggest factor within the industry over the last 10 years, I would say, for us.
That's cool, because I live in one of these new housing estates. I've walked around, we go for a walk, because obviously big believer in mental health and like to have a walk.
Absolutely.
And some of the houses you see them and they just look like brand new, and then some of them have got like green and kind of like all weird. Is that what that is?
That is, yeah. So if you look at the house, it'll either be in the shade or it won't. It'll take the aspect of the wind, whichever way the wind's blowing. And what we have in our country is the perfect recipe for creating mould and mildews. We have it rain and sun for the last few days, rain today, windy, damp start, and everything just grows, whether that's in the gutters, whether that's on the building. And those properties will immediately, within a year of being brand new, will start to stain. If you were to put a pressure washer on it, you'll put a hole in the render. Even if you manage to clean it with a pressure washer, you're effectively just chopping, like giving it a haircut really. You've not killed the germs that are on there, the bacteria. So soft washing is a solution that you spray on. You have to be very careful with what you're doing because you don't want it going anywhere else. You would spray it on, leave it to activate, wash it down, and you do that several times through a morning until that property's back to its immaculate best. And then you put a final coat on the top, which puts a cheetah wax over the top to effectively protect it going forward.
That's really interesting. Next time I'm doing that walk, I can talk about it and pretend I know what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
It's like when you go to the museum and you try to sneak ahead a little bit to look at the plaque and think, oh, that's the Diplodocus.
Sound like you're knowledgeable. A bit like us. We try to be knowledgeable.
That's it. We always do that. We always do that. So let's talk about Bristol. So what does Bristol mean to you? And why is it so important to the business?
So I'm Bristol born and bred. I live over the bridge now in a place called Tuts Hill, but Bristol's where I've been born, where I've raised. All my nightlife when I was young years ago was always out in the clubs of Bristol having a great time. Very, very close to my heart, as Wayne will know, who runs the podcast, that Bristol City, Bristol Bears in the rugby, huge important things in our lives as a family. That goes back to my wife's side of the family, are all Bristol City fans as well. So we tend to choose one or the other on the football teams in Bristol. And I went off to university and everyone had nicknames, of course, but I was just called Bristol because I talked about Bristol non-stop. It's an amazing city, amazing place to be, an amazing place to work. We're incredibly lucky to have somewhere like the Downs, for example, not many cities have such a beautiful green space, and then a view of the suspension bridge. I mean, it's a brilliant city to be in. And obviously, having grown up here and our business was developed here, we are known for being that company in Bristol. We're not known for. We made a sort of a strategic plan not to be a national company.
Yeah.
We want to stay local, so we do the southwest area, but Bristol is our hub where we're born, where we started, and where we do nearly all our work. So it's an amazing place to be.
Yeah. Obviously, you can probably tell by my accent that I'm not born and bred in Bristol, but it's one of my favourite cities. It's just so kind of, there's a different vibe in the air, isn't it? Because if you go to, so I do a lot of travelling around for business, and I'll be in like Belfast town centre, and then I'll go to somewhere else and somewhere else, and they all look carbon copies of each other, so you copy and pasted it. Yeah. Whereas like Bristol, there's so much kind of like independent spirit. Is that, I think that's the right word.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant place. I mean, you can go to Easton and the vibe down there is completely different from going over to Clifton. Completely different, but absolutely brilliant areas. And then you've got the waterfront in the centre, haven't you? Where you can go and have a great day. As I say, you can go up to the Downs. I mean, there's just a huge variety in Bristol, and it's just I think generally the oversight of it all is it's a lovely city to live in. It's a lovely city to visit, and of course, Bristol's basically red, isn't it? So with the football teams.
Have you worked on any projects in and around Bristol that people might recognise?
Yeah. So I would say our main project that we are still working on. We've been at Bristol Airport for coming up to 12 years. So that in a project in itself, we work for the cleaning contractor out there and also directly for the airport, so we work for both. I mean, that's changed hugely over the years. So the old terminal buildings we used to clean are no longer there. They've got the main terminal building now where we've done projects where Wayne's been out. We've had to steam clean all the beams outside. We do all the windows, and again, that's a project that's developing. Within, I think, July they're opening the new part of it where the bridge will come over the top at the front of the terminal. And there'll be up to 12 to 14 million people by the end of the year, which is, I mean, where that was 10, 12 years ago is absolutely ridiculous, really.
Yeah, so I mean, I only really know Bristol Airport from about 10 years ago, but I was going to Ireland. We're going to Galway in Ireland, so I had to fly into Shannon. Doesn't fly from Bristol, so I had to go to Heathrow. And the pain in the back, the pain to go there was so much more than going to Bristol. I love flying out of Bristol Airport because it's relatively big. You've got lots of destinations, but security can be quite nice to go through.
Do you know that we've worked in a few airports? We've been up to support the contractor in Edinburgh and another one. And Bristol is by far and away the nicest one we've ever gone to. I mean, the staff out there are generally really nice. The overall picture of the airport is lovely. It's relatively easy to get to, and as I say, they've got so many flights going all around the world now. It's a truly international airport, isn't it? So it is a good one to have, certainly.
Yeah. So you're just moving on. So the exterior cleaning industry is always evolving. What's some of the biggest changes you've seen over the years?
The biggest one is the introduction of water-fed poles. So, as we were saying earlier, if you wanted to clean a 3 or 4 story building in the old days, it was an old wooden ladder, climb up the wooden ladder, clean it by hand, whether you walked on the windowsills or whether you did it from the ladder. That changed, I think it's 23 years ago now, something like 20 years ago. And we were the first company in Bristol to get the water-fed poles, which back then were little metal poles that would go up 50 foot, and you had an Allen key and tighten each one up.
Yeah.
And they were cold water systems, so you had pure water in the back of your van. That would go through your pipe to a brush and you'd clean the windows. And when we bought that system, it cost us something like 15,000 back then, which back then was a huge commitment. We had one job, which was every 3 months for 50 quid. So we had 200 quid turnover, and we took a big gamble on it.
Yeah.
And everyone now, everyone nowadays has water-fed poles. Every window cleaner you'll know has it. You still need the traditional way, but that's the biggest change in the industry without a doubt.
Yeah, I can't imagine these days seeing people climbing up ladders to clean windows. The idea of it just seems so alien to us now.
That's the thing. But I think we get we get into society and into the business world, and you probably don't realise, but that's how you're shaped, isn't it? We haven't made a conscious decision to think that's alien, but you as a non-window cleaning person would go, what's that bloke doing up that ladder 4 stories? If you saw that tomorrow, you'd be like alarmed by it. Well, that's just the way the industry's developed, and that's the way it now is.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine they used to climb up the wooden ladders with no harnesses, no safety equipment, nothing. So how has health and safety regulation, and let's try not to turn the air too blue here, but how has health and safety impacted your kind of operations?
I think for us, we are, I would say, lucky in one sense that we have always made an effort from when my grandparents had the business to make sure health and safety, even back then, was very, very relaxed. It's really, really a huge part of our business. So when our guys start, before they even start their work, they have to do 5 health and safety courses, which is working at heights, asbestos awareness, etc. They have to be all done before we let them out in the vans, even if they might just be out shadowing the team for the day. And whilst we can all, no doubt, criticise and moan about health and safety at times, because when you go to some sites, some of it can be quite ridiculous. By and large, it's a really important thing that we all adhere to, and something we take very seriously in our company, and I know the companies we work with all do as well. And it's just for the benefit of our staff at the end of the day, isn't it? And the people you're working around, whether that's the client staff or the public. It's no good us rolling out into the centre of Bristol to do a 90-foot job in a cherry picker if you then don't put some barriers around to stop people walking under your boom in case something falls down and hits them on the head. Just those common sense really is what health and safety is. It's always talked about in that way, that what you might term as safe might be a different view to what I term as safe, but somewhere in between the two there is a safe working procedure which we all adhere to, and it's something that's, I think it's obviously massively improved everything, and as time goes on, as you say, with the drones and stuff, there'll be further increases and further importance on that. So it's it's really, really vital, and something that has only been a benefit to anyone really.
Cool. You mentioned there about it's all about keeping the staff safe. Moving on to the staff. So do you have regular training? Is it, you mentioned now about they need to do things like the asbestos, work in the heights, stuff like that. So is that e-learning? Is that?
Yeah. So that's it. It's all e-learning for the 5 courses they do. We then train all our guys on iPath, which is so they can then operate cherry pickers. We have 2 of our own cherry pickers, which is a practical course. You have to go on that for a day. That's going to develop into a 3-day course eventually, where you actually go and do all the learning, and then you have to do tests at the end on what you've learned, and then you have a practical, and again you can't be failed too many times on the points. So that's all done. The soft washing side of the business, as I say, is something that's grown massively and is all about chemicals. So we do a lot of training on that. They have 20 hours of video training. They have a 200 question exam, which they've got to get 80% in before we let them even go out and look at the equipment. So training's massively important to us as a business, but also to our guys. You know, we want all our staff to come in and to go out site. And we would never, and I was always told this, we would never ask our staff to do something that we've never done ourselves. So we won't say go up and stand on that ledge 150 foot up if we've not done it and we don't know, and we know it's safe, because we wouldn't do that. So we want to make sure all our guys are fully trained, fully equipped, and they've got the knowledge that they need so they feel comfortable going to do their job. There's no point in having a team that's nervous, worried, thinking, I don't know how to do this, what if I get this wrong? Because they're not going to do their job correctly for a start, and also that's not putting them in the position that they should be in, because they're here to, at the end of the day, we all come to earn a living for our families. So we want our guys empowered, trained the correct way, adhering to health and safety, doing a great job. Company benefits, they benefit, and they go home happy at the end of the day.
One thing you said there that I absolutely love is I wouldn't ask anyone to do anything that I wouldn't. And that's always been my leadership style. Is like if you're asking someone to make cold calls, for instance, pick up the phone and make some. Yeah. Don't just say, can you do that? It's leading by example, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's always the way I've always been told by my dad, and it's the correct thing. You know, with what we do, there are lots of different things we do, working at height, going on roofs near the edges, but you have to do all those things correctly. And I'm not going to say to our guys, go and go on there with the harness on and walk along that ledge 100 feet up if they feel nervous, or if I've not done it, to know that it's perfectly safe. So it's the way I've been taught, and it's certainly the way that my son is being taught now. And I just think that's right. The leadership role has got to be important, isn't it? That you'll seem to be doing what you're asking them to do.
No, 100%. So how many staff have you got at the minute?
So there's 9 of us in total, 6 guys out on the road. Myself and my son, he's in 3 days a week, so he's working well and doing all his training. My father, and then we've got Neil, who's our business director, and we've got a fantastic lady in the office called Caroline who does all our field support. So she does all the bookings, she's the lady who will make sure all the training's on time, all the harnesses are tested on time so that it doesn't overlap us every 6 months. The machines are all tested and have the loader, which is what you have on a cherry picker, to make sure that's all working in the correct condition. So there's all elements. You've got the guys out on the road, you've got the guys out doing the quotes to make sure we've got the business coming in. Then you've got people like Caroline who are just making sure everything's all running in the correct process. So yeah, small team, but at the moment a very efficient and a really good team. So
awesome. So is there a family feel throughout the rest of the business? So obviously yourself, you talked about your father, son, but for the rest of them who might not be family members, is there still a kind of like family feel to the business?
Yeah. So when we advertise, I do the interviews, and the first thing I talk about is our history, what we do as a company to support our guys. So we have an employee assistance package in place, which we pay for as a company to make sure they're looked after mental health wise, and 24-hour hotlines for anything in their life that they need to talk about. And we talk about, for us, we don't have, for example, where we differ from other companies, we don't have trackers in vans, because we want to base our staff on trust, which is how our family's always been. So we trust our guys to do the job we're asking them to do.
Yeah.
And we want to bring people into our business that want to feel like they're part of the family. It's not a case of, and again, this is what I've always been taught, if we make, on our quarterly account, say we make a £10,000 profit over the quarter, we don't go, well, that's brilliant, that's going to go into Stephen Tom's pockets as the owner of a business. That's not the way it works. There's a scheme in place that we make money, everyone within the company makes money. So we want people to really buy into the fact that we're a very, very close-knit team. As a managing director myself, you'll still see me out on the tools, joining out with the guys. I've left them on the road today so I can come and do this podcast. Dad will turn up at any time of the day or the week or the month, and he knows all our guys by first name, even though he's only in every few months. Wherever he turns up, he'll always chat. He'll turn up with coffees for everyone. And it's really important that we're seen as a family business, not just for the guys who are actually family, but for us as a team. It's a vital part of our business, definitely.
Yeah. So recruitment must be tough, because obviously you're bringing someone into the legacy, the family business. So is there anything that you look for in people? Is it more personality? Is it more skills?
So you're right, recruitment's tough. It's tough in our industry. It has been for a long time. The things we look for, first and foremost, is honesty, trustworthy and reliable. If you're not going to be willing to come in at 6 a.m, it's fine at this time of year because it's daylight, the sun's out at 6 and everyone thinks it's brilliant. But if you reverse that to February when it's freezing cold, it's either snowing or hailing and it's blowing a hoolie and you've got to go and do a job clearing out a gutter. It's not the best job in the world like that. But for me and for the guys that work for us, it's all about being outdoors. And I enjoy the outdoors, whether it's winter or summer, and our staff do. So we really highlight that to them. But it's all about trust. If they don't come in and we don't feel we can trust them, then you don't have a job. And if you come in and start with us and you're brilliant, that's really fantastic. But if you then were to sort of break that trust in a major way by maybe saying you've done a job and you haven't done a job and we know it's not been done, then that breakdown in trust will probably result in the fact you won't stay with us, because it really is about trust and honesty. That's what we look for. Skills, we can train all our guys. We can put through the courses, we can teach them on the tools. We've got between us in the business over 200 years of experience within the industry, so we can always teach people. But it's that honesty and that trustworthy and the right person.
I think so. I think once the trust is gone, it's very hard then.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when people are working all over the place. I mean, my experience is kind of remote working with. I'll hire someone who's based in Scotland and I'm based in Yeovil, so you have to trust them that they're making the calls. So
Yeah.
I think in business, trust is everything. Isn't it?
It really is. You know, we highlight that massively on the interview. It's about trust, and you still get. I mean, the last few years we've still had a few. I don't know which generation they are, but the younger generation, and they say yes, we understand that, and then they come in and they don't wear the correct uniform, or they damage the kit, or they pretend they've done the job and they haven't. And we know all the tricks of the trade, so there's no point trying to fool the people that have been there from day one. So it really is about that trust element.
It makes you laugh, doesn't it?
Oh,
It
it
makes
does.
you laugh when they're like
Yeah.
they're fresh in the door and they're like
Yeah,
they think they can pull the wool
You think
over
I've got a great
eyes.
idea. Yeah, not that we thought about that.
They wouldn't have thought of this before.
Yeah, exactly.
Never seen this.
Yeah, exactly that.
What about retention? So what about staff retention? Do you have the same people with you for a long time?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Since COVID, it's been tough. Up until COVID, we didn't have a vacancy for about 10 years because we were prioritising window cleaning then. A couple of those guys have retired because they've been with us so long, and retention at the moment is pretty good. We've got a couple of guys that have been with us over 10 years, and then the newer guys that are with us are sort of 15, 16 months down the line. So they're fine. You know, that the retention element's good. We tend to offer a very competitive, good salary, and we put all in our efforts into making sure that our staff are in a good place, and not driven really hard that they wear themselves out and then they're not happy. It's all about making sure everyone's in a good place for their families and happy. And if we put that in place, and the trust and the family issue and the family element together, the retention tends to be pretty good.
Cool. So don't want to, and it's not a question I plan to ask, but how was COVID for the cleaning industry?
Do you know, COVID for us, touch wood, it doesn't come back again, was not too much of a challenge. We're fortunate enough in our business that when we invest in vehicles, we tend to buy them outright. So that very basic, not hire purchase, we didn't have those ongoing payments through COVID when we couldn't work. So that was really good for us. All our staff, we paid complete wages, 100%, so they all got their wages. But in terms of what we could and couldn't do, because soft washing is a major part of the business, which is bleach-based, that was also a really important thing for COVID because that did sanitise a lot of areas. Certainly at the beginning, that was a thought. So whilst we had probably 3 months off, we had guys out working on roof cleaning on commercial buildings where they were being used within 4 months. So very basic. We didn't have anywhere near the work we're doing now, but we were able to return to work in a phased return probably within 6 months. And cleaning was probably, it's the cleaning industry, isn't it? You know, if you're talking to the wrong people, it's just the cleaners. We don't care about the cleaners. But if you talk to the right people, cleaners are every bit as important as a director of a business. They're no different at all. It's just a different name. And in COVID, apart from the emergency services, the NHS, the next most important lot were the cleaning industry, because without the cleaners, we would probably still be in the mess we were in.
100%. I mean, the first thing we had to do when COVID struck was increase the regularity of the cleaners coming into the office. Most people getting furloughed, I had to stay working. So I was working in the office. All of a sudden, it went from like 30 people in the office to just me. And the only person I'd seen all day was the cleaner.
Yeah.
And I just used to look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, most cleaners as well, when they come in, they're quite happy to have a chat.
Yeah.
You know, and the cleaning industry's sometimes viewed in the wrong light, and most of the cleaning industry are all sort of the earth people. They're just lovely. They're a lovely industry, a lovely bunch of people, and they're just in to do a job in the same way that everyone else does. And as you say, back then, that was they were vital and still are.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of kind of similarities between the cleaning sector and the car sector. They're both absolutely vital to like the kind of continuation of this country, but they all get looked down, and it's just maddening.
Yeah, it is, and as you say, they are absolutely vital to everything we do as a society. Really, take that out of it, and we wouldn't be anywhere. But it's just the whether it's the image that those industries have got, or whether it's the fact that people just judge it in the wrong way. I think that's probably the issue, and it can be very frustrating at times.
Yeah, it's something that I've got a big soapbox about. I mean, mine is more on the care sector. For some reason, they're not seen in the same light as the NHS, and I think it's the same with the cleaning sector. It's the country would grind to a halt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely grind to a halt with all the amazing cleaners that we see up and down the
you'll
country.
be all right with the care sector. It's massively important, and it is no different to the NHS really. They're just all essential, but maybe it's people just take them for granted until at one time, like we've had, you then realise actually how important they are.
Yeah, no, definitely. So let's move on to one of my favourite subjects, mental health. So how do you personally manage the stress that comes with managing a business like CIS, especially as we discussed earlier with the kind of DNA, the legacy?
So mental health, like you, is massively important to me. We've suffered with some mental health histories in our family. I've got 4 children and a wife, and they're hard things to come to understand. And I would say up until probably 7 or 8 years ago, I didn't really pay a huge amount of notice to it until we had a bad experience. And me as a person, I went through probably, I would say, a month of really quite bad anxiety. And I can remember lying in my room one night, and my body was just in spasm. Everything was going mad. My arms, and I couldn't stop my legs moving, my arms moving. It was horrendous. I've never felt anything like that before. And it was only through chatting to my wife, really, because she's experienced issues in the past, and she's so knowledgeable on it all. She's brilliant. And we talked through all that, and I got through that through the month. And for me as a business owner now, what's really changed me and what I do is understanding it and not keeping it quiet as a business owner, and especially as a bloke.
Yeah.
We don't tend to talk. I meet up with 4 guys from my old hockey club every month. We have breakfast, and we always ask each other how we're all doing, which is really essential. And I also do, for me personally, I do an ice bath every other day. So I go into sort of 3 or 4 degree water. It's only 2 minutes. Shocks you. For me, it's brilliant. I know if I don't do it in a week, I'm struggling, and I know those feelings now. I can recognise my body as to what might be coming. And that's the way I deal with it. I know that I was at a business session on Saturday, and I know the guy there who's a multi-millionaire. For him, his coping way is to go home and walk the dogs every night. He goes out with his wife, he shuts off from work, and he go out into nature. And again, we've got 2 dogs at home, we walk them every day, and just being out in nature, you don't realise what you've got and how beneficial that can be until you experience those bad times, and you've got to find your way around it.
Yeah, especially around this area. I mean, Bristol, Somerset, Devon. It's amazing, isn't it? I think the people kind of who are born and used to it, don't appreciate just how amazing the green spaces that we've got around here are.
We're incredibly lucky. I live just over the bridge in Tuts Hill, so we've got the Wye Valley one way, the Forest of Dean the other way, and it's just amazing. You look in Bristol, there's so many places. We walk in Wainmore, we walk in Coombe Dingle. It's got rivers running through it. It's trees everywhere. You can go up the hills, down the hills. You can do what you want. And when you get that time where your mental health's being challenged, you then need to understand and realise what you can do to help yourself in those walks and those times. And once you've had that experience, it then makes you realise that you need to put stuff in place to stop it, rather than waiting for it to come again, because it's not great. When you put something in place, something to prevent stuff, a bit like for work at PPM, for our work, where we put planned preventive maintenance in place to stop a building getting dirty. In the mental health world, if you're putting something in place to help you each day or every other day, whatever it might be, stop you feeling in that place, it's got to be done.
How did you find the ice baths when you first started them? Because I do a lot of ice baths as well, and now I'm kind of so acclimatised to it, it's done. But I remember the first few was
yeah, blimey. I mean, we go on holiday every year to Tenby, and I can remember as a child, our family tradition is we all swim before breakfast in the sea, and then you have your breakfast. And I can remember doing that as a child. And I was always in and out of that water in 10 seconds, freezing cold. And I can't remember who suggested to do the ice bath. It's obviously come through Wim Hof anyway. I mean, that's where everyone knows that basically. But my wife and I made the decision to do it. I'll tell you where it came from. My son was having a bit of a rough time. We decided we'd go to Clevedon Lake.
Yeah.
Through the winter, 6 years ago. And we did it for 2 years. And we went every single Wednesday without fail. And we got in that lake. And that every week was a challenge. You go down, you're like, you've got your big dry robe on and you don't want to get out of it. And you look at that water and you know it's only 4 or 5 degrees. Oh. But I will say still now, when I get into my ice tub every other day, is I could easily chicken out and go, I'm not going to get in there.
Yeah.
But you get in that water, you do your breathing correctly, 30 seconds later, your body's acclimatised to it, and you can stay in there 3-4 minutes, no trouble. And you get out, and unless you've done it, it's hard to explain just how good it is for you.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. And if we can go to the beach, to the seaside throughout the winter, great, even better, because you're on the natural land as well.
Yeah, no, I do. I'm a big fan of the Wim Hof method. So, yeah, I like ice baths, but when I first started, it was definitely a shock to the system.
Yeah, it's a shock. I mean, we took all our team to a Wim Hof experience in Bristol 2 years ago. So we took all our guys, invited a few family friends, and we did a breath and ice course. So we did a load of breathing for an hour, and then we did a 2-degree ice bath. And nearly all our team got in, but the videos were so funny of them coming out of it, absolutely hilarious. But we gave them that experience because, it worked for us, works for me, works for my family, it works for you clearly. So if we can give our staff those opportunities, we try and do a mental health day out once a year so we can just showcase different ways of our staff being able to help themselves.
Yeah. And just the industry, so mental health in trades isn't always something that's been in focus. Do you think that's changing?
Yeah, in terms of if you're running businesses, in terms of what you do in your businesses, mental health for him it just has to be discussed, doesn't it? People have to understand it. If you go onto somewhere like LinkedIn, there's more and more people now saying, we do this with our staff, we do that with our staff, we look out for our staff in this way. And I think you have to, as in any business, doesn't matter what industry, and you have to be looking at how you look after your staff, how you look after yourself, and how we can all be better to each other to generally it'll make us more efficient anyway. But it's just that caring and looking after each other that everyone has to do.
Yeah, no, I love that. And just moving on to things like the growth vision, stuff like that. So, what's been your proudest moment?
Proudest moment? That's a good question, that one. My personal proudest moment was probably maybe my first day working with my gran, having to write out 250, so we had 250 staff back then, wage slips by hand. Oof. And then counting out the cash that goes into every envelope. I can remember that, and I remember that day thinking, my gosh, what a day. And then proudest moments going forward now, I mean, I love when we do a really good job. So I know, for example, Bristol Airport, we've had some amazing reports up there, and when there's nothing better than when we did the external beam cleaning last January. We did all of that, it was all filmed. We had to manage 10,000 people a night coming along where we were working. We managed that whole area with not one complaint from anyone, even though we were cleaning above everyone. And those moments just make you proud as a business owner. Really, really chuffed. And then the latest thing is the introduction of Mostin, my son. Him coming into the business he's out with me, learning quotes, learning how the business runs, learning how you talk to your clients. And that's just brilliant because I love what we do. I love our family industry business, and I'd like it to just keep going for another 50 years. So
awesome. And believe it or not, we're getting close to running out of time here. So I just want to finish on sort of advice and reflection, because I think these podcasts are great because it gives the benefit of experience. So what is one lesson that you've learned the hard way? Because we're always in business learn lessons the hard way. What would kind of your advice to someone stepping into your shoes be?
I will think there's a couple of things. Firstly, if you're stepping into a business where you want to start your own business, I think you need to do your homework first on the market and make sure that you can do that business. But one of the key things I think that, and I've been told this, is that if you get things wrong, that's not necessarily a failure. What you do is you get that wrong, but you learn from that mistake. And if you've learned from that mistake, then you're going to progress and become a better person and more capable of running that business. So rather than getting things wrong, being a complete failure, getting things wrong is about learning from that mistake and then growing from there.
Yeah.
And ultimately, for me, it is about treating your staff in the right way, looking after them.
Yeah, I like that one because it's all about treating people the right way, being human. We're all humans. We're all here for the same reason.
If you reverse the roles and you were the worker and they were the boss, how would you like to be treated?
Yeah.
And if you're not going to treat them in the way you'd like to be treated, then you're not doing your job right, I say.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, thank you for joining us anyway, from CIS, giving us a behind-the-scenes look at nearly 50 years hard work, dedication, high standards, and more importantly, community roots in Bristol's cleaning industry. If you want to learn more about the work, head over to CIS1976.com or check them out on social media.
Yep, that's us. Thank you very much. Yeah, really enjoyable. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much for tuning in. Whatever platform you're watching on, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow as well, and just look out for more great content. And we will see you again next time on the Bristol Business Podcast.
Thanks for joining us on the Bristol Business Podcast. Please remember to leave a like, comment and subscribe. If you are interested in appearing or sponsoring the podcast, contact details can be found in the episode description.